Have you ever watched someone celebrate your destruction as if it were their greatest achievement? I have. Her name is Victoria, and right now she's standing in what used to be our art gallery, spraying champagne across canvases that took me 15 years to collect. She thinks the keys in her hand unlock a $7 million empire. She doesn't know that those keys open the door to her own ruin. By tomorrow morning, she won't be an art dealer. She'll be a cautionary tale whispered in auction houses. The champagne is still cold. The contracts are still warm. And the truth? The truth is about to paint a masterpiece of karma. The cork hit the 19th century crown molding I had restored myself, leaving a small dent that would have made me cry yesterday. Today, I just watched it fall. 7 million, Harper, Victoria said, her voice echoing through the gallery's main exhibition hall. Do you understand what kind of power that is? That's not just money. That's legitimacy. That's a seat at tables where people like you wait in the hallway. People like me. I had heard that phrase a lot in the 3 years since I'd made the mistake of taking on a business partner. She didn't pour me a glass. She didn't even look at me. She just walked past where I stood near the reception desk, the partnership dissolution papers lying between us like a death certificate. You should start boxing up your little projects, she continued, taking a long drink straight from the bottle. I'm meeting with Sotheby's on Monday. They're interested in the Rothko sketch. Well, my Rothko sketch now. I'm thinking I'll use this space for contemporary installations. Your vintage obsession is depressing. It smells like mothballs and failure. I looked at the woman I had trusted. She was wearing a black dress that cost more than my car, purchased on a company credit card she had opened without telling me. Her hair was styled in that effortless way that actually takes 2 hours and $300. Her skin had the glow of someone who had been sleeping until noon while I ran the gallery alone. Victoria, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. We buried Aunt Josephine 6 hours ago. Her ashes aren't even cold. She waved a hand dismissively, champagne sloshing dangerously close to a Degas print. Josephine was a remarkable woman, Victoria said, not even trying to sound sincere. But let's be honest, Harper. She was hoarding capital, sitting on a fortune while living in that crumbling brownstone, eating canned soup, wearing the same coat for 30 years. I'm going to liberate that money. I'm going to make it work. She tapped her phone screen, her eyes lighting up with something that looked almost manic. I'm looking at penthouses in Tribeca, she narrated to herself. Floor-to-ceiling windows, private rooftop, chef's kitchen. Maybe I'll throw parties. Gallery openings where people actually matter, not these dusty estate sales you love so much. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold, empty of anything resembling the friendship she had performed when we first met. You're staring, she said. It's pathetic. Look, Harper, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You were useful. You had the connections, the education, the last name that opened doors. You played your part perfectly. But the play is over now. Useful, I repeated. Exactly, she said, setting the bottle down on the dissolution papers. You're a worker bee, Harper. You wake up, you authenticate paintings for other people, you write catalog descriptions, you smile at donors. You were built for the back office. I was built for the spotlight. She tapped the papers. I filed this morning before the memorial service. My lawyer says if we fast-track it, I can have full ownership by the time the estate settles next week. Clean break. New empire, new vision, new everything. You filed before the memorial? I asked. The cruelty was breathtaking. Architectural in its precision. Efficiency, Victoria shrugged. Why wait? I don't need your grandmother's trust fund anymore. I don't need you explaining auction protocols or conservation ethics. I'm deleting those words from my vocabulary. She turned her back to me, returning to her phone. I've already booked a suite at the Mark, she threw over her shoulder. I can't spend another night in that sad apartment above the gallery. You have until tomorrow to clear out your stuff. After that, I'm hiring movers to throw out whatever's left. I looked at the dissolution papers. Petitioner, Victoria Chin. Respondent, Harper Whitmore. I reached into my jacket pocket. My fingers brushed against thick cardstock. A business card. Elena Rodriguez, estate attorney. I remembered the voicemail Elena had left me 20 minutes after the memorial ended. Ms. Whitmore, it is imperative you attend the formal reading of the will tomorrow at 10 a.m. There are provisions your business partner is unaware of. Fine, I said quietly. Victoria paused, bottle halfway to her mouth. Fine, she repeated. Fine, I said again louder. I'll sign. I'll pack. I'll go. Victoria laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. See, that's what I've always appreciated about you, Harper. You know when you're outmatched. You know your place in the hierarchy. I'll leave the keys on the desk, I said, walking toward the narrow stairs that led to my apartment above the gallery. Do that, she said. And Harper? Don't even think about asking for a settlement. Your aunt left everything to me. She told me so herself last year. Said I had the vision to carry on her legacy. You get nothing. I walked up the narrow stairs to my apartment, each step feeling heavier than the last. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt a strange pressure in my chest, like a dam holding back an ocean. I pulled my suitcase from the closet and started folding clothes mechanically. The rhythm sent my mind drifting backward. It was a defense mechanism, I suppose. My brain was trying to reconcile the monster downstairs with the woman I had met 4 years ago. We met at an art fair in Basel. I was there representing my aunt's private collection, hoping to make connections. I was invisible, standing near a Basquiat reproduction, watching dealers in expensive suits ignore me completely. Then Victoria appeared. She didn't walk. She commanded space. She was wearing all white, holding a glass of wine like it was a prop in a film about elegance. You look like you're calculating the probability of spontaneous combustion, she said, leaning against the wall beside me. I looked at her. She had a smile that seemed practiced in front of a mirror. High probability, I said dryly. This crowd has enough hot air to ignite. She laughed. It sounded genuine. Victoria Chun, she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. I'm between galleries at the moment. Between galleries? I asked. I've been consulting for collectors in Singapore, she explained. But I'm moving back to New York. Family obligations. My mother is ill, and I'm all she has. I need to be there for her. Her expression shifted seamlessly from confident dealer to devoted daughter. I'm sorry, I said, my guard dropping. That's admirable. Most people in this world wouldn't pause their careers for anything. Family is the only asset that appreciates forever, Victoria said seriously. I've put everything on hold. Some things matter more than commissions. It was perfect bait, and I swallowed it whole. I was 32, recently out of a relationship with someone who treated commitment like an inconvenience. I was lonely. I was tired of running the gallery alone, tired of being the responsible one who understood provenance and insurance riders. Victoria felt like a breath of fresh air, sophisticated but grounded, ambitious but caring. We spent the next 3 hours talking. Or rather, she talked and I listened. She told me about the private collections she had managed in Asia. She told me about her vision for democratizing fine art. She never mentioned that the collections were mostly her own fabrications. She never mentioned that her consulting firm existed only on a business card. You have incredible instincts, she told me as the fair wound down. You see the story behind the art. Most dealers just see dollar signs. I didn't see through her, though. That was the irony. I was an art authenticator who spotted forgeries for a living. But I missed the massive fraud standing right in front of me, smiling. Now, for years later, I folded the blouse I had worn to our first business meeting. It went into the suitcase. Victoria was downstairs shouting into her phone. Yes, I want the penthouse with the terrace, she was yelling. I don't care about the down payment. I'm paying cash. Do you understand? Cash. She didn't have cash. She didn't have anything. But she believed the illusion so completely that she expected reality to bend around her. The only real thing in my partnership had been Aunt Josephine. My aunt was a legend in the art world. She had built her collection over 60 years, buying pieces that nobody else understood. She found a Klimt sketch in a yard sale. She bought a Caravaggio study that experts had dismissed. She had an eye that could spot genius through layers of grime and ignorance. But you wouldn't know it to look at her. She lived in a brownstone in Brooklyn that should have been condemned. She wore the same wool coat for 20 years. She drank instant coffee and reused tea bags. She started coming to the gallery every Sunday about a year after Victoria and I became partners. It became our ritual. Victoria would last maybe 10 minutes. She would sit in the back office, tapping her foot, checking her phone, talking about market trends and hedge fund buyers. Josephine, I really need to run, Victoria would say, standing abruptly. I'm meeting a potential investor for the satellite gallery project. On a Sunday? Josephine would ask, her voice raspy and skeptical. Art never sleeps, Josephine, Victoria would say, grabbing her bag. You of all people should know that. Josephine would just sigh, watching Victoria leave in a cloud of expensive perfume. Then the atmosphere would change. The tension would evaporate. Is she gone? Josephine would ask, reaching for the coffee pot. She's gone, I'd say. Good. Now we can talk about things that actually matter. Josephine and I would spend hours in that gallery. She was the one who taught me that art wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about truth. The market is just a mirror of human psychology, she told me once, examining a Turner watercolor. Fear and greed. That's all it reflects, Harper. If you can see past both, you win. And Victoria? I asked carefully. Where does she fit? Josephine paused. She looked older then, the lines around her eyes deepening. Victoria is all performance and no substance, Josephine said softly. She thinks authenticity is something that happens to other people. She thinks she's the protagonist of a story where everyone else is an extra. She works hard. I lied, trying to defend my partner. She works hard at appearing to work hard, Josephine corrected. There's a difference. Wealth without wisdom is just expensive chaos, Harper. I worry about her influence on you. On me? I asked. You're the foundation, Josephine said. She's a balloon filled with nothing but ambition. Without you, she floats away into irrelevance. I remembered one Sunday in particular, about 8 months ago. It was snowing. Victoria had stormed out after I refused to approve a $50,000 marketing campaign for an artist who didn't exist yet. Josephine reached into her purse and pulled out her checkbook. How much did she want? Josephine asked. I can't take your money, Josephine, I said. It's not for her, Josephine said, writing quickly. It's for the gallery. For the restoration work I know you've been postponing. For the insurance premiums I know you've been paying out of pocket. She slid the check across the desk. $50,000. She's my business partner, Josephine said, her voice cracking slightly. I introduced you too. I vouched for her. I created this situation by believing her performance. I robbed you of the warning signs. You were trying to help, I said. I was trying to network, Josephine corrected. I thought connections mattered more than character, and now I have a 50% stake in my legacy owned by a beautiful lie. She grabbed my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Promise me something, Harper, she said. Anything. If something happens to me, don't let her rewrite history. Don't let her erase what's real. You're smarter than her. You're deeper than her. Use that. Nothing is going to happen to you, I said. We're all just borrowing time, she smiled sadly. My loan is coming due. I stopped packing. My hand was hovering over a folder in the back of my desk drawer. Victoria's expense reports. The ones she claimed were for client dinners and art fair travel. I remembered the day the illusion finally shattered completely. It was 3 months ago. Josephine had taken a sudden turn. She had fallen in her brownstone, broken her hip. She needed round-the-clock care. Victoria had made a grand, tearful announcement that she was moving into Josephine's house to be her full-time caregiver. I'm clearing my entire schedule, Victoria had told us both, dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. No more gallery openings, no more client meetings. Just family. I'll cook for her, help her bathe, sit with her through the nights. It's the least I can do for the woman who believed in me. I was touched. I thought, finally, this is the redemption. The real Victoria emerging from behind the performance. But then I found the receipts. I was looking for our quarterly tax documents. I opened Victoria's desk drawer and found a stack of crumpled papers shoved in the back. They weren't client dinner receipts. They were invoices. Premium Care Solutions. Client, Victoria Chin on behalf of Josephine Whitmore. Service, 24/7 concierge home health care. Rate, $600 per day. Special instructions. Caregivers to wear civilian clothing. Caregivers to leave premises when family visits. Caregivers to enter through back entrance only. I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. Victoria wasn't taking care of Josephine. She was hiring professionals with the gallery's money, then taking credit for their work. She was billing the business account for medical supplies and pocketing the cash difference. I waited for her to come back to the gallery. She walked in around 7 p.m., looking exhausted. She made a show of rolling her shoulders. God, she groaned. Lifting her is brutal. My back is destroyed. But Josephine was in good spirits today. We looked through old photographs together. She told me stories about her first auction. I didn't say a word. I just tossed the invoices onto her desk. Victoria froze. She looked at the papers, then at me. Her face didn't show guilt. It showed calculation. What is this? She asked, feigning confusion. It's the truth, Victoria, I said, my voice shaking with rage. You aren't taking care of her. You're at coffee shops and boutiques while hired nurses do the actual work. Victoria walked slowly to her desk. She picked up the invoices. Then she smiled. A terrifying, calm smile. You went through my personal belongings, she said. That's a violation of privacy. That's actually actionable. That's what you're worried about? I shouted. You're lying to a dying woman. You're stealing from the business to fund a performance. I'm managing her care, Victoria said smoothly. I'm the project manager, Harper. It's called delegation. Strategic thinking. You wouldn't understand because you think you have to do everything yourself. I'm telling her, I said, reaching for my phone. I'm going over there right now, and I'm telling Josephine everything. Victoria moved faster than I expected. She grabbed the invoices and walked to the small kitchenette in the back office. She pulled out a lighter from her purse. What are you doing? I gasped. She held the corner of the stack to the flame. The paper caught instantly. She dropped the burning pile into the metal sink, watching the evidence turn to black ash. You're hysterical, Victoria said, her voice unnervingly calm. You're stressed. You're imagining things. These were just preliminary quotes. I never hired them. I've been doing everything myself. I saw the dates, Victoria. I saw the charges to our account. You saw what you wanted to see because you're jealous, she spat. You're jealous that Josephine and I have bonded. You can't stand that she trusts me more than you now. She turned on the faucet, washing the ash down the drain. Go ahead, she challenged, leaning against the counter. Tell her. Tell a woman with a broken hip and a weak heart that her caregiver is a fraud. Stress her out. Maybe cause a stroke. Go on, Harper. Be the reason she has a heart attack. I stood there paralyzed. She had me trapped. If I told Josephine, it could actually harm her. And without the papers, it was just my word against Victoria's perfectly constructed lie. That's what I thought, Victoria sneered. Now, I'm going back to Josephine's house. I have a long night of caregiving ahead of me. I carried that secret like a stone in my stomach for 3 months. Back in my apartment, I zipped up the suitcase. The sound was final. I thought about the hospital 5 days ago. Josephine had been rushed to Mount Sinai. Her heart was failing. When I arrived, the room was quiet. Machines beeping rhythmically. Victoria wasn't there. She was handling arrangements, which I later learned meant she was at a wine bar 2 blocks away, pre-celebrating. I sat by the bed. Josephine looked so small, so fragile. Her skin was paper-thin, translucent. She opened her eyes. They were cloudy, but when they found mine, they sharpened. Harper, she whispered. I'm here, Josephine, I said, taking her hand. Where is she? She's parking, I lied. I couldn't stop protecting Victoria, even then. Josephine squeezed my hand. She knew. Listen to me, she rasped. Tomorrow. The reading. You must go. I'll be there, I said. But Victoria says everything is already decided. She says you told her. Promise me. Josephine's voice spiked with sudden energy, setting off an alarm on the monitor. No matter what she says, no matter what lies she's told, you be in that room. You face her. I will, I said, tears streaming down my face. Josephine pulled me closer. Her breath smelled like medicine and mortality. I know, she whispered. Know what? The nurses, she breathed. The invoices. The ash in the sink. My eyes widened. You knew? How? I'm dying, Harper. She managed a weak smile. I'm not blind. I saw the caregivers hiding. I saw the charges on the gallery account that Victoria thought I couldn't access. I saw everything. I wanted to tell you, I sobbed. I tried. Sure, she comforted me. You protected me from the truth. Now I protect you from the consequences. Her eyes drifted shut. Authenticity over ambition. Remember. She slipped into a coma an hour later. She never woke up. The memorial was this morning. It was a grotesque performance starring Victoria Chin. It was raining, a cold November rain that turned Greenwood Cemetery into a gray watercolor. Victoria stood at the head of the grave holding a massive black umbrella over herself, angling it so the rain dripped directly onto me. She was on her phone throughout the entire service. I could see the reflection in her sunglasses. She was browsing real estate listings. Tribeca penthouses. Immediate occupancy. When it was time for the eulogy, Victoria stepped forward. She didn't have notes. She just performed. Josephine was extraordinary, Victoria said, her voice projecting across the small gathering. She taught me everything about vision, about taking risks. She knew that fortune favors the bold. She was a shark in the art world, just like me. The mourners, mostly artists Josephine had supported, students she had mentored, museum curators she had worked with, shifted uncomfortably. Josephine wasn't a shark. She was a gardener who cultivated talent in others. We're going to take her legacy to new heights, Victoria finished, raising a fist. The Whitmore collection will be legendary. Rest in power, Josephine. She stepped back, looking satisfied with her performance. I felt a hand on my elbow. It was Bernard, the head of the Brooklyn Museum's acquisitions department. He was 70 years old, barely 5 feet tall, and tougher than steel. That woman, he hissed, is a masterclass in superficiality. Bernard, I said, wiping rain from my face. Josephine knew, he whispered, leaning close. She told me last month. She said, Victoria waits for my death like someone waits for a lottery drawing. He pressed a small leather notebook into my hands. She wanted you to have this, he said. She gave it to me 2 weeks ago. Said to give it to you when the end came. It was Josephine's authentication journal. The record of every piece in her collection, every secret, every provenance. Hide it, he warned, glancing at Victoria, who was now arguing with the funeral director about the reception venue. Don't let the parasite see it. I slipped the journal into my bag. Did she say anything else? I asked. Bernard looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. She said, watch what happens when you pull back the curtain. Back in the apartment above the gallery, I zipped the suitcase shut. I was done. I walked downstairs into the gallery space. Victoria was sitting at the reception desk, a document spread out in front of her. She looked up, her face composing itself into sudden, unexpected concern. Done already? She asked. Her tone was softer, suspiciously soft. Yes. I'm leaving. Wait, Victoria said, gesturing to the chair across from her. Sit down for a minute, Harper. Please. I hesitated. Why? Look, I know I was harsh earlier, she said. The champagne, the stress of the memorial. It's a lot. I'm grieving in my own way. Grieving? I asked. Is that what you call shopping for penthouses? I cope through action, she said smoothly. But listen, I don't want you walking away with nothing. I've been thinking. She slid the document toward me. My new ventures are going to be aggressive. High risk, high leverage. I'm planning to take out significant loans against the collection. If things go south, creditors could come after you even after our partnership dissolves. It's complicated. I looked at the paper. Liability separation and asset waiver agreement. This form protects you, Victoria explained, handing me a pen. It just says you're not liable for my future business debts. It decouples our financial profiles immediately. I'm doing this for you, Harper, so you can walk away clean. I took the pen. I was exhausted. My brain was foggy from grief and sleeplessness. I just wanted to leave. I wanted to be safe. I lowered the pen toward the signature line. Authenticity over ambition. Josephine's voice echoed in my head. You're the expert authenticator. I stopped. The tip of the pen hovered millimeters from the paper. Just sign it, Victoria urged, a little too much tension in her jaw. Then you're free. I pulled the paper closer. I started reading the fine print. Section 7, paragraph C. The undersigned hereby waives any and all claims to current, future, or pending inheritance distributions, estate assets, or collection holdings originating from the Whitmore family estate in exchange for debt indemnification. My blood went cold. This wasn't about protecting me from her debts. This was a preemptive strike to block me from the will. She was trying to trick me into disinheriting myself before the reading tomorrow. I looked up at her. The mask had cracked. She was staring at the pen with the intensity of a predator. Nice try, I said quietly. I tore the document in half, then in quarters. What are you doing? Victoria screamed, jumping up from her chair. Section 7, paragraph C, I said, throwing the pieces at her. You think I can't read legal documents? You think I don't authenticate contracts for a living? You paranoid bitch, she yelled, her face flushing red. I was trying to protect you. No, I said, grabbing my suitcase handle. You were trying to rob me one more time. Get out, she screamed. Get out of my gallery. With pleasure, I said. I walked out and slammed the door, severing the life I had known. I checked into a hotel near Penn Station. It was the kind of place where people stayed when they had nowhere else to go. The carpet smelled of industrial cleaner and anonymous desperation. I sat on the edge of the bed and called Elena Rodriguez. Ms. Whitmore, her voice was smooth, professional, oddly comforting. I was hoping you would call. I'm coming tomorrow, I said. 10 a.m. Good, Elena said. Your business partner, has she seen the actual will? No, I said. She claims Josephine told her years ago that she was leaving everything to her. She says they had an understanding. I heard a sound on the other end. It might have been a chuckle. Memory is a creative editor, Elena said cryptically. Josephine was a woman who believed in written documentation, not verbal promises. Elena, I asked, is she going to be okay? Victoria, she's spending money she doesn't have. She's spiraling. That is not your concern anymore, Harper, Elena said firmly. Tomorrow is about justice, not rescue. I hung up. I ordered a sandwich from the hotel restaurant and stared at the water-stained ceiling. I felt lonely, yes, but for the first time in 4 years, I didn't feel the crushing weight of Victoria's expectations. I didn't have to pretend her schemes were brilliant. I didn't have to cover her expenses or explain her absences. I reached into my bag and pulled out Josephine's authentication journal. I opened it to the last entry. To Harper, if you are reading this, the storm has broken. Do not fear the rain. It washes everything clean. See you in the morning. J. I slept better that night than I had in years. The law offices of Rodriguez and Partners were located on the 38th floor of a glass tower in Midtown. The view was stunning. The city stretched out like a promise. I arrived at 9:50 a.m. I was wearing my authentication suit, navy blue, sharp lines, professional. Victoria was already there. She was sprawled across a leather sofa, looking like she owned the building. She was wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost $5,000. She had a designer handbag on her lap that I knew she'd bought on the gallery's corporate card. She didn't look up when I walked in. She was talking loudly into her phone. Liquidate the position, she was saying. I want cash by noon. We're pivoting into blue-chip art. Rothko, Basquiat, heavy hitters only. Good morning, Victoria, I said, taking the seat farthest from her. She glanced at me, her lip curling. You actually came? Glutton for punishment. Watching me collect millions isn't going to make me share any of it with you. I'm just keeping a promise, I said quietly. The heavy wooden door opened, and Elena Rodriguez walked in. She was a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and the presence of a federal judge. She carried a thick accordion folder. Good morning, Elena said, sitting behind her desk. Let's make this quick, Elena, Victoria said, leaning forward. I have a meeting with Christie's at noon. Just give me the bank transfer details and the access codes. Elena placed the folder on the desk. She laced her fingers together. This is the formal reading of the last will and testament of Josephine Marie Whitmore, Elena began. I must insist on protocol. Fine, Victoria waved her hand. Read the legal boilerplate. Let's get to the numbers. Elena opened the folder. The paper crackled in the silent room. I, Josephine Marie Whitmore, being of sound mind and body. Elena read through the standard preamble. Victoria tapped her heel rhythmically against the floor, creating a sound that grated on my nerves. Article 5, Distribution of Assets, Elena announced. Victoria sat up straighter. Here we go. The entirety of my estate, valued at approximately $7 million. $7 million, Victoria whispered, grinning at me. Hear that, Harper? $7 million. Shall be distributed according to the following conditions, Elena continued, her voice hardening. Victoria frowned. Conditions? What conditions? There are no conditions. Section A, Elena read. The entirety of the estate, including all artwork, real property, and financial assets, is bequeathed to Victoria Chun, provided that at the time of my death, and for a period of 2 years thereafter, she remains in an active business partnership with my niece, Harper Whitmore, and that all assets remain jointly managed under the terms of their original partnership agreement. The room went silent. Absolutely silent. Victoria's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked like she'd been slapped. Excuse me. Victoria finally squeaked. The condition is the partnership, Elena clarified. Josephine believed that Harper provided the necessary expertise and ethical oversight to manage the collection properly. She viewed you as a team. The inheritance was for the unit, not the individual. But I filed, Victoria stammered. I filed for dissolution. This morning. Before the memorial. Yes, Elena said, pulling another paper from the file. I received notification of partnership dissolution filing 2024, AZ 7743. You initiated the dissolution immediately prior to the memorial service. I can withdraw it, Victoria yelled, jumping up. I can cancel it right now. Harper, Tell her we're not dissolving. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding. She lunged toward me, grabbing my hands. Her palms were sweating. Harper, please. Tell her we're still partners. We can fix this. We love working together. I pulled my hands away. You threw me out, Victoria. You called me useless. You told me I was depressing. I was grieving, she pleaded. I didn't mean it. We're a team. We've always been a team. Section B. Elena raised her voice, cutting through the chaos. In the event that the partnership is dissolved or dissolution proceedings are initiated by Ms. Chun prior to the 2-year mark, the entirety of the estate shall be transferred immediately to the Arts Education Alliance. Who? Victoria whispered. The Arts Education Alliance, Elena repeated. A non-profit organization providing free art education to underserved communities. Josephine founded it 6 years ago. Art education? Victoria choked. She gave my money to a children's program? She gave her money, Elena corrected, to people who will learn to see truth in beauty. Victoria's shock transformed into volcanic rage. She slammed her fists on Elena's desk. This is fraud, she screamed. Harper manipulated her. Harper poisoned her against me while I was caring for her. This is undue influence. I'll sue. I'll contest this until there's nothing left. Sit down, Miss Chun, Elena said calmly. No. She's a snake. She got inside Josephine's head while you were what? Elena raised an eyebrow. Caring for her? Yes. I was there every single day. I sacrificed everything. Elena reached for a remote on her desk. A screen on the wall flickered to life. Your aunt anticipated this reaction, Elena said. She recorded a video statement 3 weeks ago regarding her mental state and reasoning. The video started. Josephine was sitting in her hospital bed. She looked weak, but her eyes were sharp and clear. Hello, Victoria, video Josephine said. Victoria froze, staring at the screen. If you're watching this, you're angry. You're shouting about lawyers. You're blaming Harper. Josephine paused to cough. Don't blame her. She tried to protect you, tried to hide what you really are. But I have eyes, dear. Josephine held up a piece of paper. It was a copy of the caregiver invoice. I found the receipts. I know about Premium Care Solutions. I know you were at wine bars when you claimed to be at my bedside. I know you burned the evidence Harper found. Victoria went pale. The lost advantage had circled back. I don't hate you, Victoria, Josephine continued. But I cannot enable your self-destruction. If you abandon Harper, you lose the anchor. And without the anchor, you'll drift into nothing. This money would destroy you. It would let you buy enough illusions to lose yourself completely. I'm saving you by taking it away. The screen went black. Victoria stood there, swaying slightly. The room was silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Is there anything? Victoria asked, her voice broken. Section C, Elena read. In the event of disqualification, Victoria Chun receives a one-time payment. Victoria's head snapped up. Hope flickered across her face. How much? $25,000, Elena said. 25,000? Victoria repeated. That's nothing. That won't even cover my credit card bills. It will be released, Elena continued, upon proof of gainful employment for a minimum of 6 consecutive months. Employment defined as W-2 position with verifiable income. Employment, Victoria stared. A job. Yes, Miss Chun. A job. Victoria laughed. It was a high, hysterical sound. I can't get a job. I'm a consultant. I'm a strategist. I'm a curator. Then you will be a curator with $0, Elena said, closing the folder. Victoria turned to me. Her eyes were wild, desperate. She actually fell to her knees on the expensive carpet. Harper, she begged. Please. We can fix this. We can tell Elena we've reconciled. We can tear up the dissolution papers. I'll do anything. I'll change. I promise. I looked down at her. I saw the woman who burned the invoices. The woman who mocked me with champagne. The woman who tried to trick me into signing away my inheritance. No, Victoria, I said softly. We could have had everything, she cried, grabbing the hem of my jacket. The penthouse, the collection, the reputation. We could have been legends. You could have had everything, I said, stepping back. All you had to do was be real. You had an aunt who believed in you. You had a partner who supported you. You had a business. But it wasn't enough. You needed the performance. You needed the fantasy. Harper, she screamed. Elena pressed a button under her desk. 2 security guards entered. Ms. Chun, Elena said. Please escort yourself out, or they will assist you. Victoria stood up slowly. She looked at me with pure hatred. You're nothing, she spat. You'll always be nothing. Maybe, I said. But I'm an authentic nothing. The guards took her arms. She didn't fight. She just deflated, collapsing as they led her out. We could hear her screaming all the way down the hall. My penthouse. My collection. My life. Then silence. Elena let out a long breath. Well, that went about as expected. She turned to me. There is one more thing, Harper. She handed me a small envelope. This is not part of the estate. This is a personal gift from Josephine's checking account. It falls outside the will's jurisdiction. I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $30,000 and a handwritten note. For the fresh start. By real art, not reproductions. Love always, Jay. Thank you, Elena, I said, tears streaming down my face. 6 months later, I stood at the front of a classroom in the Arts Education Alliance Community Center in the Bronx. Okay, everyone, I said, gesturing to the reproduction on the easel. Who can tell me what makes this Monet painting valuable beyond its price tag? A young girl in the front row raised her hand. It's not about the money. It's about what he saw that nobody else could see. Exactly, I smiled. And sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we learn to see differently. The class laughed. I love this job. I was the director of collections and education for the Arts Education Alliance. I wasn't wealthy, but I was content. I had a small apartment in Brooklyn with exposed brick and morning light. My own space, filled with books and art prints I had chosen myself. After class, I sat in my tiny office. My phone buzzed with a text from Bernard. Spotted her. Thought you'd want to know. He attached a photo. It was grainy, taken from a distance across a department store floor. It was Victoria. She was wearing a burgundy vest with a name tag. She was standing behind the cosmetics counter at Macy's Herald Square, demonstrating perfume to a customer. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wasn't wearing the designer clothes. She looked tired. She looked older. But she was working. I zoomed in on the photo. She wasn't wearing the fake designer watch anymore. She was wearing a basic Timex. She was earning her $25,000 one commission at a time. I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. It wasn't satisfaction or revenge. It was balance. The universe had corrected itself. She wasn't destroyed, she was just finally real. I put my phone down and opened Josephine's authentication journal. I had continued her work, adding notes, verifying pieces, building on her legacy. I wrote a new entry below her last message. The rain stopped. The forgeries have been cleared from the gallery. Only what's authentic remains. Thank you for teaching me to see the truth. H. I closed the book, grabbed my canvas bag, and walked out into the bright, honest afternoon light of a New York spring day. As I walked down the street, I passed a gallery window. Inside, I could see young artists setting up for an exhibition. Their work was raw, unpolished, but genuine. One of them saw me looking and waved. I waved back. I realized something then. Josephine hadn't just left me money or a foundation to run. She had left me something more valuable. The ability to distinguish between what glitters and what actually has worth. Between performance and presence. Between ambition and authenticity. Victoria had wanted an empire built on illusions. She got a cosmetics counter and a name tag. I wanted to matter. And I realized, as I walked past those young artists who would never know my name, that I already did. Not because of money in a bank account. Not because of a title on a business card. But because I had learned what Josephine tried to teach me all along. The most valuable thing you can own is the truth about who you really are. Here's what I learned from watching Victoria's empire of lies collapse. Authenticity is the only currency that never loses its value. You can fake success, fake credentials, fake caring. But you can't fake character when the test comes. Josephine knew that. She designed a will that didn't just distribute wealth, it revealed truth. So I have a question for you. Are you building something real, or are you just performing success for an audience that doesn't actually care? Think about that. If this story made you think differently about success, ambition, or the people you trust, leave a like and subscribe. Drop a comment below, even just one word. Tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here, that this story touched something real in you. Because in the end, that's all any of us really want, to be seen for who we authentically are, not for the illusions we create.